Homesteading School, where every house is a homestead.
Hello everyone, it's Alexis Marshman here again, and this is Phil. Say
Hello.
hi, Phil. Today we're going to be talking about emotional and spiritual capital. Emotional and spiritual issues aren't something that people easily talk about in our everyday life, and we just wanted to have a chat today about how do you think about those things and what even are they, and how do you begin to address them. Something that I wanted to bring up was, since the pandemic, we've seen a lot of stuff going on, like, alcohol sales have gone through the roof since the pandemic began. Alcohol is one of the ways that people use to cope with, those underlying issues that they don't easily deal with. So, for example, when the pandemic started, a lot of people lost their jobs or they couldn't go to work anymore. And so when they're in that state of mind, they lost a lot of their sense of identity and that sort of thing. So
I think what happens when people are in crisis, it lets them see underneath the surface of what's going on in their life.
yeah,
And often our values are hidden under a set of habits and behaviours that we don't often analyse and look into. So I think a crisis it's often not pleasant, but it's often a great opportunity to do a bit of an examination inside of yourself of what do I think is important in life, and what meaning does the things that I do in my life give me. Being able to work, being able to spend time with other people, being able to do the things that you do for pleasure and for recreation. So I think sometimes when people are feeling a sense of emotional pain or stress, they will jump for things that might numb that feeling of pain, without actually examining and going, well, why am I feeling this way, and how can I deal with this?
Yeah. So Chris talks about it in the book. He says that you've got to ask yourself, what is the story I'm telling myself in my head? What are the narratives? What are the storylines that run through my head on a regular basis? And by looking at those stories that we're telling ourselves, we're able to sort of step and objectively look at them, not being emotional about it, saying, well, I can see this is the story I'm telling myself when this happens, and this is the story I'm telling myself when this happens, and then see what kind of emotional response you're having to those stories,
Yeah.
And it's by looking at those stories, and so many, I come, like I said in my earlier video, I come from a cattle property, and so often, particularly for men, it was very difficult to talk about, how they would feel or how they would react in certain circumstances, particularly when it comes to, go ahead.
Well, I think the context around this is, with the homesteading school, is that we're talking about all the different types of capital, and often we think about, if you're wanting to grow food, at your home, you're thinking, well, how much water do I have? How much land do I have? How much time do I have? How much money do I have to buy the things that I need? But it's an understanding that there is a form of wealth and capital. It's an asset that you need to have, and that is that emotional and spiritual capital. It's something that you draw from. And you would talk to farmers or people even in your life as you grew up, that there was a real intentionality of putting back into that emotional and spiritual capital as a community, for example. It's slightly different, but you need to be able to invest in this capital. Yeah. Because if you don't invest in it, you can't then make withdrawals from it as you need it.
Yeah. So, like, a lot of what we're talking about with these 9 forms of capital is that they form a resilience in your life. So the more that you have of them, the more resilient you are to the things that come. And so that's why this is number 1 in this whole.
Yeah. Everyone's thinking, when do we talk about tomatoes?
Yeah, exactly.
When do we? Yeah.
But it's so important to know, why you're doing the things you're doing, and to be familiar with your own, the own psychobabble, the things going on in your head all the time, and become friends with it, basically. So this kind of leads me on to the next thing, which is why I particularly asked Phil to come talk today, because you run a really busy practice. There's no end of opportunity for terrible, difficult, scary situations to happen. You know, we've talked a lot about this, about having, you know, values and, you know, a mission that helps guide you through those difficult circumstances. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, I guess it can be very cliched, and it's often a thing that people do. Is there'll be a set of ideas on the wall in the boardroom that no one looks at and no one really cares about. I think when it comes to understanding your values, it's got to be very authentic and real. It can't just be a group exercise you do one day and get rid of. So even on an individual level, it's not something you do once. It's a way of looking at yourself and looking at your life and being self-aware of why you do what you do. Because from your values come all of your strengths and all of your weaknesses, right? It also will be the source of most of the conflicts that you have with people in your life, you know, your friends and your family and just random acquaintances and the person you saw at Woolies. You know, the reason you're disagreeing with each other is because you disagree on a really basic root values level. Most of the time that's the truth. So if you are trying to achieve anything, you've got to be really aware of your values, because it'll tell you where you're going to struggle, and it'll tell you where you're going to succeed really well, and you're going to be able at least to know your biases then and know what to look out for as you're going on your journey.
So values, when you say that, it's not like lovey-dovey, happy-feely words. Like, what are your values that you use at work to guide you guys every day?
Well, for us, we have some really core, strong values. So we're in the medical field, right? So there's what we do. So we know what we do. We're podiatrists, right? So we're fixing people's sore feet. So our mission is to make sure no one in the place we live is suffering from sore feet that can be fixed. So we know what we're trying to achieve. And
do you call that your mission, like that?
Yeah,
or the mission sort of statement.
That's right. Like that's sort of a mission. So if you're at home, you're wanting to get into homesteading, you've got to really understand what am I trying to achieve? You know, is your mission I'm going to grow heaps of awesome food to feed my family? That's great, but it might also be I am going to grow food and products and handmade things to sell to provide an income for my family or for myself or whatever. So you've got to really have that, and you've got to make sure that everyone who needs to know that knows it, and that you all agree on it. Because if you have conflict around that, if you don't agree on actually what you're doing, but from the values point of view, it tells you what you're going to value as you do it. Okay. So for example, a multinational company is going to, well, let's talk about a fast food chain. I won't say any names because I don't really need to. They're all quite similar. Most fast food chains, think about what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to make lots of money and sell you food. So do they value high nutrition food? I really don't think so. No.
Wouldn't be at the
Most of the time they don't. Now if you're going to be growing food and selling it, are you going to value sort of like maybe producing something organically? You might think that's really, really important. But what is underneath that? It's an integrity to what? You know, integrity to being sustainable in the way you're doing things. So if you're going to have these values, so if I talk about our business, for example, one of our core values of our team is togetherness. Okay? So to us, what that means is that every decision we make, if someone has a success, we all celebrate that. Because one person's success is everyone's success. If someone is struggling, that is something that we all bear that together, and then we all work together to help with that.
And then if somebody's acting in a way that is, counterproductive to building that togetherness, it's a very easy thing to go, are you acting in a way that honours that value, that reflects that value? So then it almost takes it outside of a personal confrontation, and it makes it about something outside of yourself that you can focus on, which is very helpful in a workplace, I imagine.
Well, whenever you've got any decision to make, we would think, well, what are our values? How would we solve this problem from the point of view of what our values are? And every decision you make has to have integrity to that. Now, again, your values can't just be this set of ideas that you say, now we're all going to follow this. You actually have to look inside first and think, and there's some really good exercises, I think you're going to look into that later, of actually creating some exercises to tease out of yourself and the others that are going to be involved in whatever you're up to, what your core values already are. Because most of your values need to be something that you already are, and you can have some aspirational values that you think, we want to be more like this and we want to work towards being more like this. But yeah, it's a real exercise in self-analysing yourself and working out who you are and what you do and why you do it.
So I know for myself, I've done this exercise a while ago, and now I have a set of values for me personally that I have up on my wall in my office, and I really do reflect a lot of those on those a lot in my life when I'm making decisions just for myself. So if you're not part of a business or if it's only just you, you can also do those values just for yourself to guide your own choices in life.
Would you give an example of one of those, just so people can understand?
So be brave is one of my values, because I feel like if anything good and anything different is going to happen in the world, often it's going to mean stepping outside of your comfort zone. So that's something I think a lot about is,
and then
brave.
when it comes time to make a decision, if the choice is to be brave or not be brave, it reminds you to be brave.
Pretty much, yeah.
Exactly.
It does remind me to be brave, yeah.
The other half of this form of capital is the spiritual conversation. So I guess this is a broad conversation, and there are many perspectives on spirituality, but I guess we're just wanting to open up the idea that it is something that needs to be answered.
So sometimes when we have, I've met people, and I myself have had values that are derived from a really, it's not actually a really good place. I've been motivated by things that haven't been good. And I think it really does tie in with your spirituality. Spirituality is something that should be outside of yourself, that something that's good and motivates you to be more than what you are. I think so much of it is about, caring for others and thinking about what others need. To serve others is such a pivotal part of what motivates me in my life, and that derives directly from my spirituality. And what would you say some of your core spiritual values or identity in your spirituality drives you in your life?
Well, it's everything. It's the core. It's like the trellis that out this window right now I can see a bougainvillea tree that's growing up the side of the shed in the backyard, and it can't do that on its own. It's growing through this wire trellis that gives it the ability to do anything. And I think spirituality is designed to give us answers and to answer questions that can't be answered in any other way. And they're often very core why type questions. Well, why is this moral or ethical decision meaningful or important? Well, it's usually answered by something that's not really, it's often not rational. It's usually something that's very, very, it's spiritually aligned with, and again, we're certainly not going to preach, I'm not anyway, and I know that you're not either, to preach a specific set of firm ideas, because we're just making, I guess, an awareness that you need to answer. There is a call inside of all of us that needs to be filled with, there's questions that need to be answered, and they're very much of a spiritual nature. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense.
Yeah, and I think, finding a group of people who you can be comfortable with to ask those questions and have those conversations, because one thing I know about us as humans is that we're very good at finding the right answers. And it's just about being in a place, in a situation with a group of people that you can trust that will help you come up with the answers to the questions that you have. And often together you've come up with the answers. And, you know, that kind of leads me to the kind of people you hang around with. And this is just a bit of an add-on. We have a saying in our life, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So just have a good look around yourselves and go, is that the kind of person I want to be like? Are these the kind of people that, you know, inspire me and make the kind of, give me an idea of the kind of person I want to be? I think that pretty much summarizes our conversation, but there'll be more things to come. I'll be doing another little tutorial on some of the little workshops that I will offer for you guys to do, so you can run through these exercises and, you know, do a bit of exploration for yourself. Reach out to your community and reach out to other people, and don't be afraid to look inside, because it's uncomfortable as it will be to start with. You'll be able to unveil a whole new pathway that you've never thought about before, and that's the beauty of going through this exercise of having a look of what's going on in your mind. So thanks Phil. Were you going to say anything?
No.
Did you have anything left you wanted to say?
Well, I was going to say, I don't know, I like analogies. So the analogy I thought of as you're talking is, it's like digging for gold. You've got to dig a lot of dirt, and then but you really will find really valuable things when you do this kind of work. Yeah. That's all I was going to say.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you, Phil, for coming today to have a chat, a chitty chat. Oh. And we will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Bye.
So you guys know how we were talking about catching up with those people who you can connect with on, you know, on all those values and stuff like that. Well, today we're at our trade day where we're going to catch up with some of our people that we hang out with. So we'll let you guys see what we get up to.